Welcome to Old City Radio, live from Yerushalayim.
The way David HaMelech, King David says, "Ivdu et Hashem b'simcha." You have to serve God with joy.
We have to be b'simcha.
Shalom, my friends. Here we are back at Old City Radio, trying to get empowering, positive, helpful, healthy, loving messages out to our Jewish brothers and sisters around the world, so that we can do our part in bringing the light into the darkness. And Baruch Hashem, coming up to Hanukkah, which is all about bringing the light into the darkness. Watch this space for lots of very sweet Hanukkah Torah. Today I just want to talk a little bit about Yaakov. Yaakov appears in this week's Parsha. And Yaakov is said by our sages to be the ultimate of the forefathers. He is the perfected human being. And it says he's an Ish Tam. And we've spoken about the word tam before. Tam really means whole and wholesome and pure and sincere and innocent and good. And why is this such an important trait? It's because it probably sums up what our essence is more than any other word. I guess we have tahor, which means pure, but our neshamas are just so pure and so innocent and so joyful and so full of vitality. And it's our minds that get in our way. And our mind overanalyzes and doubts and fears and does all of this stuff. But it says that he was an Ishtam, Yaakov Ishtam, and Rashi says, Kalibo Kain Piv. Kalibo Kain Piv. As his heart, so was his mouth. He just spoke sincere words. And his heart was pure. Now, you've got to be very careful, because nowadays everyone's into being authentic. I've got to be an authentic person. And I agree with that, unless you're authentically racist or you're authentically angry. Sometimes if you're just authentic but you're not connected to the truth and pure, then authenticity isn't healthy. But he had a pure heart. Lev tahor bara li Elokim. Baruch nachon chadesh b'ki bi. We always ask Hashem, just purify my heart, my motivations, my desires. What am I living for? My heart is what I'm yearning for in my life. So he had this pure heart. He just wanted spirituality. He just wanted to be spiritual. He just wanted to connect to Hashem. It says he yoshev oihel. He was sitting in the tent, just learning and connected to Hashem all the time. And the truth is that that's a mistake. There's a mistake. Why? Because the Jews' mission in this world isn't to sit in tents and just be spiritual. It's to get out of the tent and make impact in the world and do something with our lives. So we had to get this balance, and he really had to learn this lesson. And we've seen that the test of all of our forefathers is to go against their natural character trait. That's the real test. If you can do something because that's your natural trait, then that's very good. But can you go beyond your natural trait and serve Hashem in a completely different way? So for example, Avram Ish Chesed, he was just a loving, kind, giving, unconditionally loving human being. So he had to fight the kings. They got the 5 kings and the 4 kings. He had to get into war. And he had to offer his son up as a sacrifice, and terrible acts of gevura, of strength and judgment that he had to perform in order to show that he wasn't just going along with his nature. Once again, if you're going along with your nature, that's very good. But we've got to go beyond our nature. And Yitzhak was the opposite. Yitzhak was a gevura. And what did Yitzhak have to do? He had to give up his life. Mesiras nefesh, an ultimate act of chesed, of giving. And our sages say, who is Yaakov? Tein emet le Yaakov. He was all about emet and all about truth. And he was sitting in the tents, and he needed to go to the exact opposite extreme. So what did he end up having to do in this week's Parsha? He had to deceive his father exactly against his trait of emet, and it broke him. He was like, I can't say words that are not so true. But he needed to do that in order to break through to a much higher level. And by the way, understand this is Yaakov, so he didn't say anything that was a complete lie. The emet doesn't mean necessarily saying the facts. It means saying the spiritual truth. So if If you see someone running away and someone chasing after them with an axe and they say, which way did they go? And you point in the opposite direction, that's emet, because you're upholding the truth, even though maybe what you said wasn't exactly true. So in all of our lives, we've got to go beyond our natural way of being, and we've got to integrate an opposite way of being. But for the Jew, it's really getting this balance between being spiritual and being physical. So when I was living in Asia for 6 years, I fasted for 7 days once, just 2 cups of water a day and a little bit of papaya for cleansing purposes. And I did lots of silent meditation retreats. And really, Eastern paths to spirituality involve separating from physicality, sitting in a cave, not getting married, not eating after 11 o'clock in the morning, not owning anything, no money, and there's no perfume and no music, and just completely detaching ourselves from physicality in the material world. I find the world that I grew up in the West, is really more about physicality and materialism and the American dream, and that's what it's all about. So Judaism says, no, there has to be a balance. We have to be balanced. We have to be in the physical world, involved. We have to get married, and we have to have money, but how do we use our physicality in a healthy way? So in the East, once again, there's no marriage, no physical intimacy. In the West, physical intimacy is largely abused. Judaism says no, physical intimacy with the right person in the right way at the right time for the right reason with the right intentions is actually very beautiful. And in the East, they don't use money. They don't touch money, the Buddhist monks. In the West, it's really all about money. And Judaism says you can be rich, just make sure you're giving 10 or 20% to tzedakah, and you're using your money to do mitzvahs and for good things. And with food, in the East, there tends to be lots of fasting and staying away from food. In the West, it's eat all you like, really. And Judaism says, no, you can have food, but don't eat too much, and say a blessing before you eat and a blessing after you eat, and make sure it's kosher. So we've really got this beautiful balance of physical and spiritual. And that's what actually happened. When Yitzhak, they say, he couldn't see. So he was confused if it was Yaakov or Esav that he was blessing. But our deeper sages say he really knew it was, but he was testing him. When he said, are you Esav? What he was really saying was, can you come out of the tent and live in the world and impact the world and make a difference and really uplift the world? Because in some ways, just sitting and working on your own spirituality is selfish. I remember sitting in a cave in India for a long time trying to overcome my ego, until I realized it was pretty egotistical. So I went out and I worked in an orphanage instead, went back to the cave at night to meditate. But it's really about getting this balance. So this is why he says the famous line, Akol kol Yaakov, v'yadayim yaday Esav. I hear that you're speaking your essence, because your speech expresses your essence. You're speaking like Yaakov, you're speaking spiritually. You're uplifting the world, you're being positive, you're mentioning Hashem, you're being God conscious in your speech. Yadayim Yadei Esav means, you're ready to act in the world. You want to take action, you want to do something, you want to change the world. And he says, Ata ze bini Esav. You are my son Esav. He really got it. He said, he wasn't saying that you're literally Esav, he's saying you've actually integrated these two powers. There are some sages that say that really they were meant to be two equal powers. Esav was meant to perfect physicality in a good, positive, healthy way, and Yaakov was meant to perfect spirituality. But because Esav abused his physicality and he used it in the bad way, then we lost that as the Jewish people. So Yaakov actually had to take on both roles, and he had to include the physicality in his spirituality. And then he went out into Lavan's house and he had to deceive Lavan after Lavan was deceiving him. And he's suddenly caught up in this world, and it's very, very difficult to be on a high spiritual level when you're caught up in the world. I remember sitting in meditation retreats in Thailand a lot, and I was speaking to a monk, Tan Medi. He was the chief monk there, and we were sitting by the pond, and it was very relaxing and peaceful. And then many years later, when I started doing tshuva, and then I have a family and beautiful. So now I've got a family and I've got responsibilities and I've got rent to pay, and you've got guests coming for Shabbos, and then you drop the chicken soup on the floor and the kids are crying and you can't pay the rent, and it's a few minutes to the buzzer, and you're so involved in the physical world. It's a much higher level of spirituality. if you can overcome your ego by sitting in a cave, that's cute, but it's easy to overcome your ego when there's no one to annoy you. But when you're in the world and you have responsibilities and you have stuff to do, it's very hard to stay calm and overcome your ego and be peaceful at that point. It's a very, very much higher level. But it meant it had to break him. It had to break. In order to become great people, we have to go beyond our nature and get out of our comfort zone. And there's actually a beautiful teaching, Rav Leibele Eger, Rabbi Akiva Eger's grandson, says an amazing thing. Here, Yaakov walks in, and Yitzhak sees him and he kisses him, and he smells him. He says, "Reach b'ni karech sadeh asher berchu Hashem." The smell of my son is like the smell of a field that Hashem blessed. And Rashi and other people bring that really means smelled like Gan Eden. He walked in there smelling like Gan Eden, and it's because the coat that Esav had apparently was from Adam Harishon, from Gan Eden, and then he was wearing that coat. But really, goat skin doesn't smell so nice. I think it was smelling goat skin. So Rav Leibele Eger says no. What really happened was it broke Yaakov's heart to have to deceive his father. He was broken. He's like, I just don't want to do this. It doesn't seem pure. And he is Kalibo Kain Piv, like his heart, so is his mouth. He speaks from his heart, and his heart's so pure and fresh. And his heart was so broken from having to lie to his father. But Rabbi Leibele Eger says, do you know what the smell of Gan Eden was? It was the smell of Yaakov's heart, because when a Jew's heart is broken, then that smells like Gan Eden. It's an amazing idea that we've come out of Gan Eden to change the world, and sometimes we get our hearts broken, like we are in the current situation with our brothers and sisters and the hostages and the losing so many lives, and our heart's broken. But if we take that heart's brokenness and we turn it into yearning for spirituality and learning to bring God consciousness into the world, it's actually a beautiful reach nichoach. It's a beautiful scent, a spiritual smell that we can spread in the world. You've been listening to Mastering Life. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share it with all your friends. Let's make the world a better place. And so my Rebbe also says a beautiful, amazing thing. He says that the Kadosh HaKadoshim, the Holy of Holies, the most sacred place in the world where we can have full intimacy with Hashem, in there was the Aron HaKodesh, the Ark, the Holy Ark. And in the Holy Ark, there were actually two things. There were the Luchot, the second Luchot, which are fixed, and the first Luchot that they're broken. We even put the broken Luchot in there. Why? It's to teach you that you can have a broken heart. You can be broken, but you can still be in the Holy of Holies, even when you're broken, because Hashem appreciates authenticity. Kalibo Kain Piv. Kalibo Kain Piv. So my heart is broken at the moment, so my mouth, I'll say to Hashem, Hashem, we're all broken, we're all praying for our brothers and sisters. And once again, it's the same idea. Coming up to Hanukkah, we see that to make oil, you have to crush the olives. The oils have to be crushed, but the Jewish people were always like this. The more you crush us, the more we produce oil. That's why oil and grape juice and wine are our main liquids, because grape juice as well, you have to crush the grapes. So try to crush the Jewish people, but you know it's just going to bring out wine, which creates joy, and it's going to bring oil, which creates light. And that's what we're trying to do, is trying to spread spirituality and joy and God consciousness in the world. B'ezrat Hashem, and you can join us trying to do that. We need physical items here on the ground. Our soldiers are sending in requests all the time, and we want to be able to meet them. We've got a storehouse here. It's filling up, but we still need some help. So if you can donate in the link below, that'd be amazing. You can all play your part in being a spiritual person, but a spiritual person who's not detached from the world and people around them, but is deeply committed to making the world a better place. B'ezrat Hashem.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Old City Radio. Hope to see you again very soon.
Remember, this isn't just information, it's tools and practical wisdom to completely transform your life.
Faces International, thank you very much.